Gun laws around Australia vary from tough to lax. It all depends on where you live. In some states, the police register firearms and check the properties gun owners say that they're going to shoot on. Other states allow the ownership of military-style semi-automatic rifles. This state-by-state look at gun laws from legal correspondent Sarah Henderson.
We don't believe that any tougher, so-called tougher firearm laws will actually do anything. What we need is to look at the reasons, what went wrong when the laws are in Tasmania now, and try to come up with a solution.
We could have uniform national gun laws around the state, but unfortunately I think it's just going to sink back into the schoolboy politics of, you know, mine's weaker or bigger than yours, or whatever way they want to take it.
Each year there are more than 500 gun deaths in Australia. Yet the swathe of ministerial promises that followed tragedies such as Hoddle Street, Queen Street and Strathfield have done little to bring the states into line. While they have agreed in principle to a national gun control code, a meeting of state police ministers last November broke down, resulting in no agreement at all.
It's very difficult to see how you can force them on. It's the state's responsibility to make sure that the appropriate laws are put in place.
This is a huge issue where there is an amazing amount of community support for it. John Howard could do himself a lot of good by supporting tough national legislation on this issue.
If there is to be a compromise, it will have to be substantial. While Western Australia has the strictest gun laws, Tasmania lies at the other end of the spectrum, where it wasn't until 1992 that the ownership of fully automatic firearms was banned to all but collectors. Semi-automatic guns that automatically reload after the trigger is pulled are still legal in Tasmania and Queensland. In all other states and territories, they're either banned or severely restricted.
In this particular case, the person did not abide the laws, didn't own a shooter's licence, should not have been in possession of a firearm. So whatever laws were in place in Tasmania, he wasn't going to obey them.
In Tasmania, Queensland and New South Wales, there's no review of a gun licence once it's granted. And while long-arm firearms must be registered in WA, Victoria, South Australia, the Northern Territory and the ACT, there's been a big fight to stop registration in Tasmania, Queensland and New South Wales.
Let's not forget that in 1987 Victoria had the Hoddle Street and the Queen Street massacres, and both of those massacres happened 3 years after Victoria brought in registration. Registration is not the answer.
With Labor's precarious hold on power in New South Wales, the Shooters Party's sole voice in the upper house has political clout. So too does the Sporting Shooters Association. 3 days before last year's Queensland election, Premier Goss struck a deal with shooters, guaranteeing there'd be no registration of firearms.
I don't believe I'm a redneck. I think that I'm reasonably sensible when it comes to firearms. We don't believe that everyone should have a firearm. That there should be controls on people that have them, but it should be the people that the controls are on, not the particular firearm.
Today, the Queensland government said it would consider banning semi-automatic weapons in city areas. One indication that compromise between the states is still a long way off.